All right, so today's special topic webinar, we are talking about the Premom app basics and how we can help you get pregnant faster. Such an exciting topic, honestly. All right, so first we're going to do a little bit of introduction. I'm going to go ahead and start first with who I am. My name is Kacie. I am one of the registered nurses and medical advisors here with Premom. I also am the founder of my own coaching company, Your Fertile Soul, and I have some specialties in cycle tracking, artificial insemination, and fertility coaching. Before I became a medical advisor with Premom, I actually worked in a fertility clinic, helping women with things like artificial insemination, so doing IUIs, doing IVF. So I have a lot of that in clinic experience as well. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I've been with Premom now for 2.5 years. I absolutely love it. I was a user of Premom. Premom helped me get pregnant, and I just absolutely love the whole mission and being here with everyone. So that's a little bit about me, and then I will let Dr. Blessy introduce herself.
So, good morning, everyone, and good evening. Hi, this is Dr. Blessy. So, I'm from India. So, have been a licensed Indian medicine doctor and have an experience of about 3.5 to 4 years of experience in a top fertility clinic in India. So, I have been specialized in reproductive health of both female and male, and also I have been in infertility care of all the both natural and IUI and IVF procedures. I was guiding the IUI procedures and all the basic radiological related assistance and all. And I am with my interest in towards a natural conception. There are many women suffering out there with infertility. We see a lot of patients every day. So there are very less awareness regarding the natural conception. So this is where the interest of mine has drawn me towards Premom. And here I'm Premom and as a medical consultant for Indian team. And yes, today we are here to with Nurse Kacie and have the basics of how to use the app and whatever we need to log in and all your doubts and everything. We both are here today to speak to you and guide you and take your questions and take all your doubts and answers and push you towards your journey towards a pregnancy. Yes.
Perfect, absolutely. So for our agenda today, we are going to be talking about navigating the Premom app and its core features, how to boost your pregnancy rate, expert insights into accurately tracking ovulations. We're going to talk about ovulation testing kits, tracking BBT, and then we're also going to take questions at the end and do a Q&A. Speaking of that, in the webinar here, our Q&A is open, so you can submit questions through the Q&A box. There are 2 of us in the webinar today, but sometimes the webinar chat can get a little out of hand, just depending on how many of us are in there talking back and forth. So if you have a question that you really want to have answered, try to make sure that you're putting it into the Q&A box so we don't miss that and not into the chat, because sometimes we miss some things that go on in the chat. So if you want to ask questions, make sure you're doing it in the Q&A. Also, this webinar is being recorded. We do get that question often, is how can I come back and watch this? If for some reason you have to leave, this is going to be about an hour long. So if for some reason you have to leave, you can go into the Premom app, go into the community where you registered for this. And then there's going to be a section there where it says prior webinars, and you can click there and watch the recording. Moving forward, we do these webinars also twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. So if this is something that you really want to come back to and you're interested in seeing more of what we do a lot of chart webinars where we're going over charts. And then we also do special topics as well. You guys can register for those coming up in the future. All right, let's get started. First and foremost, as always, because we are going to be talking about BBT and ovulation tracking, we just want to make sure that we let you guys know that this presentation is for an educational resource only. We're not intended as a substitute for medical advice provided by your healthcare provider. Although I am a nurse and Dr. Blessy is a doctor, we are not here to give you any type of medical advice or diagnose you with anything, right? This is just, we're just here strictly for educational purposes. So if you have or suspect that you have a health condition, always consult with your local healthcare provider immediately, especially if you are especially if you are talking about taking supplements, if you are trying to get pregnant, are pregnant, or are nursing, which a lot of us in this group, if not all of us, fall under one of those categories. All right, so let's get started talking about the Premom app. So what is the Premom app? What's the purpose of the Premom app? I was introduced to the Premom app back in 2021 before I even worked for Premom. And I thought this app was really cool. I was like, oh my gosh, this app can help you get pregnant. It provides personalized tracking and accurate predictions based on the data that you're putting into the app. All right. So you're putting in your ovulation testing strips, you're putting in your temperatures from your BVT, and the app is then taking that information and helping you predict when ovulation is going to happen. So over 1 million users have already gotten pregnant with Premom. How amazing is that, right? I'm one of them. I can tell you that I have used Premom and had success with using Premom. So any questions you have about using the app, I might be able to help you answer those because I have been a user of the app for quite a while now. So it automatically is reading those ovulation test strips for you. You're not having to guess, is that test line darker than, or maybe it's a little bit lighter than the control line, depending on which ovulation test you're using, whether that's the Easy at Home, maybe it's the Premom testing strips, or maybe it's another off brand that you're using, which is absolutely fine. But the Premom app is there to help you. You can scan your ovulation test, you can upload your ovulation test, you can manually take a picture of your ovulation test, but the app is going to look at the results and graph them for you in a chart that's allowing you to visually see what's going on with your LH. Remember, LH is really important when tracking your ovulation because when that luteinizing hormone surges, which is happening about 24 hours before you ovulate, when you find that peak LH, that is like, hello, the star of the whole cycle is ovulation, right? That is your body's signal. You're about to ovulate. If you're trying to get pregnant, this is your most fertile time, and this is when you want to be having sex. All right. So this weekend, we actually just launched this new AI powered algorithm for improved ovulation prediction accuracy. So what does that mean? Basically, all you have to do is upload at least 3 ovulation tests on different days, not the same day. So we're doing 3 ovulation tests on 3 different days before your expected LH peak day. Now, with that, up to 80% of users make it an accurate prediction of their fertile window. So now when you're in your Premom app, remember, as I just said, this is new. This just launched this weekend. So what do you have to do? You need to update your Premom app. So if you haven't updated your Premom app yet, there's a chance you're not going to see it. Before the webinar, I went to my Premom app. I just updated my app, and now I can see on my phone. I know you guys can't really see it because I have like that green screen going on, but I'm on my home screen of the Premom app, and I can see it says what today's date is. And it says now, view my cycle status. And it's also telling me, it has a little dot that says your predicted LH peak day, when ovulation day would be, and what today is. So that's just giving me a more predictive idea of when ovulation is going to happen. As long as I've put in those 3 ovulation test strips on those different days, then 80% of users may have a more accurate prediction of their fertile window. Okay. So what is that going to do? Well, we're hoping that that's going to boost our conception chances with this accurate ovulation tracking method. What else does Premom have? What else can we get out of Premom? Well, one of the really great things is a community and expert-led guidance. So by people like myself, Dr. Blessy, we have Dr. Havey, Nurse Heather. We have so many experts that are in the Premom app where we're answering your questions through like Ask an Expert. You have the community where you can talk to other people who are going through the same thing that you're going through. You can ask questions to them. You can join in on other conversations. You can sign up for the webinar. There are so many great things within the app. You also have reminders and notifications. So I don't know about you guys, but like I said, I'm a user of Premom. I have it downloaded. I get notifications. Hey, you're approaching your fertile window. Hey, take an ovulation test today. You get all of those notifications, and sometimes life, we just get busy. We don't always remember exactly where we are in our cycle. So if I'm trying to get pregnant, having that extra little pop-up or no notification that says, hey, you're approaching your fertile window. Oh, wow, I had no idea. Like, I totally wasn't paying attention. I've been so busy at work, or I've been so busy with my family life, or whatever's going on. Having those extra reminders can be super helpful in ensuring that I am testing at the right time, to making sure that I'm getting that, I'm able to hopefully find that LHP, right? Okay. So as I mentioned, we talked about those ovulation testing kits. There's a couple of different brands that you can use. We're going to talk more about ovulation testing in a couple of slides, but you really want to make sure that you're using those after your period ends, and we're using them. We want to try to use them once a day. As I mentioned, we need at least 3 on 3 different days. However, we can definitely have more than 3, right? I've always used more than 3, especially leading up to ovulation. We have no idea when ovulation is going to happen, right? It could happen today, it could happen tomorrow. We have a semi idea of when the fertile window is. It's in the middle of the cycle, but am I going to ovulate on cycle day 15 or 16 or 17? Like, I can't really know that without using these ovulation tests and getting a little bit more of a better idea of what's happening with my LH, that luteinizing hormone. Okay. All right, so getting started with the app. Well, first of all, if you haven't already, you want to make sure that you download the app. Again, we had 2 new updates. So if you haven't already, once you download the app, or if you already have the app downloaded, make sure that you update the app to make sure that you can see all of those new changes that we made over the weekend. When you first open the Premom app, you're going to see the home page, which looks very similar to this. As soon as you log in, it's going to tell you the date, where you are in your cycle. Are you at your peak fertility? Are you on your period? Are you getting ready to take a pregnancy test? Now, with the new app update, it's going to tell you what your cycle status is. So in a couple of slides, we're going to talk more about the cycle status. The goal here is to aim for a green cycle, right? What is a green cycle? We're going to talk about that, but briefly, a green cycle means you've identified ovulation, whether you're using your LH testing kits or you're tracking BBT, and you time sex in that fertile period or on your ovulation day, which is also considered your fertile period, right? So somewhere in that time frame, you time sex, and then you also identified ovulation. That's a green cycle. That's what we want. All right, so you can see what your cycle day is, whether you're cycle day 13, 14, cycle day 25, wherever you are, it's going to give you that information right on the home screen. We have all of these amazing clicks that easily take you to a new area. You can log sex, super important to log sex, right? We want to know, when are we having sex, especially during that fertile window. Logging a period, you can scroll up to see other things at the bottom of the page, such as a cycle status report if you're a member. You can also see the calendar, charts, your own personal chart. You can see the community. This is the purple button here where you're going to upload your ovulation test strip, or you're going to take a picture of your test strip, and then also logging your BBT, right? That's also another thing with getting a green cycle. You can either detect that spike in your temperature with BBT or find that peak with your LH. So either one can get you a green cycle. So it's important that we know how to log both of those. Okay, so as you're putting information into the Premom app, remember, when you download the Premom app is going to go off of your last menstrual period. So if you have normal regular periods that are 28 days long, Premom app's going to tell you, boom, you're going to ovulate on cycle day 14. Well, are you really? Well, we don't know because everybody's different. I may not ovulate until cycle day 15, or maybe I'm going to ovulate cycle day 13, but you ovulate cycle day 14. We're all different. And that's why using apps that have like the calendar method, where it's just telling you you're going to ovulate in the middle of your cycle on cycle day 14, are not always reliable, because ovulation can change from cycle to cycle. You could get your LH peak on cycle day 12 one cycle, and then maybe you don't get it until cycle day 14 the next. Is there a problem with that? No, not necessarily. That is absolutely common and normal for your ovulation to just slightly vary a little bit from cycle to cycle. So by inputting these LH tests and taking those ovulation tests to see where your LH is, that can really help you determine when that fertile window is happening, not just based off of a calendar method. Because like I mentioned, you and I could both have a 28-day cycle, but we could both be ovulating on 2 different days. That's why it's important to be doing your ovulation tracking and inputting it into the app so you can keep track of everything that's happening and get that better prediction. So again, when you get started with the Premom app, it may just give you a prediction, cycle day, let's just say 14. But when you're taking your ovulation test, maybe you didn't get an LH peak yet. Maybe you're like cycle day 13, you didn't get an LH peak yet. So does that mean you're going to ovulate on cycle day 14? Well, likely not if you haven't gotten your LH peak yet. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to ovulate at all. Maybe you're just ovulating a day later. Maybe you're not going to get your LH peak until cycle day 14. So as you put information into the app is going to learn more about you and learn what's normal for you. And it's going to start giving you more accurate predictions as time goes on. Within 2 to 3 months of using the Premom app, it's going to really start learning what's going on with your body and provide you with those accurate predictions. So again, if you're just getting started, you may notice the app's prediction is a little off from what is actually happening with your body, but that's because we need to give it time in order for the algorithm to learn what's going on with your cycle. All right, and then again, like I said, you could swipe up here to get more access to things like webinars, blogs, videos, and more within our within the Premom app. All right, so some core features within the Premom app. I feel like I may have probably discussed 1 or 2 of these already, but that's okay. We're gonna talk about them again. So the test gallery within the Premom app. So learning how to use the app, especially the test gallery, is really important in making sure that we're getting accurate readings with our ovulation test. So you have a digital test reader that's going to read these ovulation tests. Looks just like this. You're going to click on add test result. There are 3 ways, as I mentioned. We can automatically take a photo where you just hold the phone. Here, I have an ovulation test right here. Ovulation testing strip. I just hold the phone over it and it's going to scan the result for me, or I can manually take the photo myself, or maybe I took a photo already, like I took my test this morning, so I just took a quick photo on my phone. I could go to my photo album and then upload a test. I would rather you guys try to do it automatically and or manually to let the app kind of really scan the result. I also want to make sure you guys are using good lighting. It's not too dark, it's not too bright. You have your testing strip on like a white background, so we're not there's no distractions or colors or other lines or things that are going on. You want like a plain neutral background. And you just want to make sure that you're trying to get it as clear as possible and your testing strip is not blurry. All right, so that's another important thing, because if for some reason your image is too dark or maybe your image is too bright, these numbers here, which are giving us a reading of that LH, could be slightly off if we're unable to get an accurate reading of the strip. So again, you want to make sure you're getting nice, clear images of what's going on with that testing strip. You have these tabs at the top of the page here. So depending on what ovulation test strip you're using, you want to make sure you're putting it in the correct tab. All right, super important. Working over an Ask an Expert, I see this question a lot. It's like, hey, why did I see this person in the community who had an ovulation reading of a 25, but I'm only getting a 0.8? How does that make sense? Well, really good question. There's actually a difference here you've got the Easy at Home tab. So any test you're taking that is an Easy at Home ovulation test, you're going to document that under the Easy at Home tab. Now, if you're using a Premom ovulation test strip, those are slightly different, right? They work just a little bit differently than the Easy at Home. Now, they both do the same thing. We're both looking at LH levels. They're just reading them a little bit differently, all right? So the Premom strips are going to go under the Premom tab. Now, the Premom, as I said, is read a little bit differently. So your Premom strip is going to have a higher numerical value, meaning a 25, a 30, a 45. Your Easy at Home is a ratio. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning if your test strip if your test line, which is this line, the second line here, if your test line is as dark as the control line, so they are equal, you're going to have a 1.0 result. So for someone who is reaching their peak, they may have a 1.0 result. Well, someone with a pre-mom strip, they may have a 45 result. Guess what? They're both peaks. They're just read differently. So I just want you guys to make sure that you're putting your test strips under the correct tab. Then we have this one that says others. So if you're not using Premom and you're not using Easy at Home, you're using a different brand, make sure it's documented under the others tab. And then we also have HCG, which is going to be our pregnancy test, so we can log those. And then PDG, those are the progesterone testing strips, so you can log those there as well. So you just want to make sure we're logging them in the correct area. All right, and then just to summarize slightly from our new update over the weekend, the new AI-powered algorithm for better ovulation prediction accuracy. So remember, we just need at least 3 of those testing strips on 3 different days in order for the app to give us those better predictions of when LH peak is expected, when ovulation day is expected. And when you go into your chart view, it's going to look very similar to this. So as you start seeing your LH go up and find your peak and then coming back down, you can document your cervical mucus, your symptoms, and then when you're having sex, it's going to document as hearts here. All right. Okay, and then the cycle chart, let's see here, real-time picture of your hormone levels next to other fertility signs like BBT. Exactly. So in this chart, we don't necessarily have examples of BBT on here. We do have an example chart at the end, which we'll go over with you guys. But if you were to document BBT, you would also see BBT here in blue. So the basal body temperature would be documented with your LH. So you can see all of that graphed in one together. It's very easy for you to know where you are in your cycle when you have all of that documented. Use Premom or Easy at Home smart basal thermometer for your automatic uploads. Oh man, I wish I had mine right here at my desk, but I actually think it's at my bedside. I have the Easy at Home. It's a pink thermometer and it's Bluetooth. I absolutely love it. I have used it for a long time now, where I take my temperature as soon as I wake up in the morning and it's Bluetooth, it automatically goes to my Premom app for me. So I don't know about you guys, I say this all the time. I'm a huge advocate for tracking your basal body temperature, but when I'm waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I don't even have my eyes fully open in order to take my temperature and read what it is and then remember in order to put it in my Premom app. I'm so tired, I'm just waking up. If my temperature is 97.9, I sure hope I can remember that to put it in my Premom app. But when I use my Easy at Home automatic temperature, it's Bluetooth and it connects to the app. So all I do is take my temperature and it just uploads right there for me. It's awesome. I absolutely love it. So if you guys are looking for one, I definitely recommend you check that one out. I've used it. I highly recommend that one. Okay, and then last but not least, need help reading your chart. So if this is you, you're like, hey, I'm new to Premom. I'm not really sure what's going on with my chart. I think I got an LH peak. I'm not sure what's going on with my BBT. You have options, all right? You can submit your chart to Ask an Expert within the Premom app. Somebody can go over your chart for you and respond back to you within 24 business hours. Or you can go into the community, you can sign up for a webinar. As I mentioned, we do these webinars twice a week, and one of them is most of the time always a charts webinar, meaning either myself or Nurse Heather, we're gonna go over your charts with you. So live, you have me, you can ask me questions, we'll talk about your charts, and I'm gonna tell you exactly what I think and how I'm reading your chart in order to tell you if you did everything correctly. Is it a green cycle? Did we find that LH peak? Did we time sex at the right time? All right. I see that we have some questions coming into the Q&A, so I'm going to leave those for the end. I don't want you guys to think I'm ignoring your questions, but we are doing the Q&A at the very end of the webinar. So if you have questions, make sure you're putting them into the Q&A box and we will do those at the very end, okay? So much talking, I have to make sure I'm drinking my water. I hope you guys are drinking your water too. Being hydrated is super, super important when you're trying to get pregnant, especially for your cervical mucus. Okay, so talking about the calendar homepage of Premom. You can click down here at the bottom of the app where it says calendar, and it's going to show you this calendar view. I love the calendar view. I'm just a visual person and I like to see the whole month at a time. And when I see the whole month at a time, I can get a glimpse of when is my period coming? When am I supposed to be the most fertile? When is my best chance of getting pregnant? And then when is my next period expected? All right. So I could see all of that by looking at the calendar view. You can also edit your period. So you're going to put in the first day of your full flow. That's important. Remember, your period is the first day of full flow, not spotting. That's the end of a cycle, right? We're going to be putting in the first day of full flow, and that's going to be cycle day 1. So that's the beginning of a new cycle. We want to make sure we're logging our periods so we can get those accurate ovulation predictions. And also, logging our period can allow us to identify any cycle patterns or irregularities. So, for example, if I'm not getting my period but every 38 days, that's good information that I need to know so I could talk to my doctor about that. We're wanting to have our period about every 28 days. The normal range is about 21 to 35, but if I'm getting my period every 38 days, then 42 days, then 36 days. There's some type of irregular pattern with that. And that's why it's important to be logging your period, because if that's an issue for you and you're trying to get pregnant, we want to refer you to your medical provider who can help you walk through that. Okay, your calendar, just like the homepage, your calendar can also change and update as you put information in. So for example, if you're predicted to ovulate this day, cycle day 14, but as I mentioned earlier, you didn't get an LH peak yet, your app is going to readjust as you're putting in that ovulation information, that LH testing kits, because that's just the way that the algorithm works. Is when you putting in that information, even for your current cycle, it can change by a couple of days. So another question we see often in Ask an Expert is like, hey, my predicted ovulation day was today, but now the app is saying my predicted ovulation is on Thursday. That's 3 days from now. Well, that's because maybe you haven't found an LH peak yet, your LH hasn't started to go up. So now the app is adjusting to fix that, because had you have really been ovulating tomorrow, we would really expect to see those LH levels a lot higher today. All right, and then from the calendar, you can also, just like you can do at the home screen, from the calendar, you can also log any of your symptoms, your BBT readings, all just by tapping on the current day and then clicking this plus sign. We can put in when we had sex, cervical mucus. It's really, really important to also track your cervical mucus. You can track your cervical position, moods, all of that good stuff. It gives you insight into your whole cycle. So let's just say you are having irregular periods, you go see your doctor. If you're documenting this information, are you having cervical mucus? What are your moods like? What's your temperature like? If you have all of this written down for your doctor, when you go see them, they're going to be so impressed and say, oh my gosh, look at all of this information you're already providing us with. It looks like, maybe you're not having a lot of cervical mucus, but you've been documenting that for a few months. Your doctor can look at that information and say, okay, maybe we need to do some hormone testing. Let's look at your estrogen levels. Whatever the case may be, it's really good to be putting this information into the app, because you can keep track of all of that and know if something comes up, I'm prepared and I can talk to my healthcare provider. It's also telling you so much information about yourself, right? You're learning so much about your own cycle by documenting it into the app. For example, if your breasts are always sore before you get your period, that's something that you would want to know. All right, so what else do we have here? The community. We talked a little bit about the community already, but down here at the bottom of the app, next to the home calendar page, you've got your charts where you can see your physical chart. We also have the community page, okay? This is where you can go and participate in discussions with other people who are on the same journey that you are. We have different range of topics. Look up here, we've got TTC, supplements, PCOS, green cycles, we have pregnancy, we even have a pregnancy side of the app, okay? We have all of this stuff within the Premom app. We also have a feature that we actually launched last year, is the chatting feature. So you can go in to the community and now you can chat back and forth with people. You can make friends, you can talk to people. Maybe someone else has PCOS and you have PCOS and you're like, hey, I'm looking for support. Or maybe you haven't gotten pregnant, it's been 6 months and you find someone else and you just want to chat back and forth with people. it's really good to have support on your trying to conceive journey, especially if it's not going as quickly or the way that you want it to be. You're feeling alone in your journey. You're not really sure what to do next. You have this community here of other women who are going through things that may be super similar to you. Remember, nobody's journey is going to be the exact same. We're all different. We all have different cycles. We all have different periods. We all have different journeys, but that doesn't mean that we can't relate. We can't communicate. Sometimes just having your voice be heard means so much. And you can do that right here in the Premom community. All right, so last but not least for me, I'm going to talk about our green cycle. So we did briefly kind of discuss this a little bit, but I just want to really show you guys this new feature that was launched over the weekend too. Okay, so the green cycle. We already discussed what a green cycle is, okay? A green cycle is you have found your LH peak or you have found a spike in your temperature and you have time sex in the fertile period. So where do we even start, right? Where do we even start with trying to get a green cycle? First, I want you to start by logging your ovulation test, okay? Take your test in the morning, put it into the Premom app, or track your temperature, right? Because in order to get a green cycle, we need either the temperature or the LH peak. Listen, I would love for you to do both. I want you to track your ovulation using your LH test kits, and I want you to track your BBT. Why? Your temperature can confirm ovulation. So if I'm just tracking using LH tests are just giving me a prediction of when ovulation is going to happen. Well, that's really helpful. I love to have a prediction, but how do I know I actually ovulated? Taking an ovulation test is not going to tell you that you've actually released an egg and you've ovulated. However, tracking your BBT and watching your temperature go up after ovulation is a really good sign. Progesterone has increased, your temperature is increasing, that the egg has been released. So yes, in order to get a green cycle, you can chart one or the other. But in reality, I would love for you to be charting both because you can learn so much about your cycles by doing both. Now, you're going to test until your Premom app has identified that LH peak or BBT spike, right? Because in order to get that green cycle, we want to see that LH peak or that rise in your temperature. And then we're going to have sex on one of your peak fertility days or ovulation day. Why is that? Well, because we have to get those sperm in the right place at the right time. That egg, once it's released, it has within 12 to 24 hours to survive. So we got to get those sperm where they need to be. So what's all this nonsense with a green cycle? Like, why do I need to even achieve a green cycle? The reason being is because a study has recently shown that users who have achieved a green cycle had a 287% higher pregnancy rate. Okay, look at that again. 287% higher pregnancy rate than those with a white cycle. What in the world is a white cycle? Well, a white cycle is someone who's only logging their period. So if you're using the Premom app and you're only putting your period in there, you're not giving yourself any information of when ovulation is happening. You're not LH tracking, using that BBT and or having sex on your fertile days. Your pregnancy rates are going to be much lower than someone who is doing all of those things. So when you get that green cycle, you have a 280% higher pregnancy rate. How awesome is that? So again, what do we need to do? We're going to log our ovulation test, we're going to track our BBT, and we're going to have sex at the fertile time. Dr. Blessy is going to talk about tracking ovulation in the next couple of slides, but I just want you guys to know that ovulation is the key, the star of the show, right? That is how we get pregnant. You have to have a sperm meet the egg. Ovulation is only happening once in a cycle, right? We have to determine when that is happening in order to get the sperm in the right place in order to conceive. So by doing all of these things, we're hoping to increase our chances of becoming pregnant by determining when ovulation is happening and then timing sex at the right time. All right. So new cycle status update as of this weekend. I told you guys this at the beginning of the webinar. I just updated my app and checked it myself before I started the webinar, just to let you guys know that it's working for me, so it should work for you guys. You want to go to your homepage, and on the homepage, it's going to say check your cycle status. So when you are checking your cycle status, it's going to give you a color, and it's going to let you know, are you in a green cycle? Are you in a yellow cycle? Maybe yellow, you didn't time sex at the right time yet. You can check your cycle status and see where you fall, okay? The key to faster conception is using ovulation tests or basal body thermometer. Yep, we talked about all of that already. So the green cycle is definitely what we're aiming for. We want to try and get all of those combined together, finding that LH peak and or BBT spike, testing until we have determined that we have found that peak or that spike, and then having sex on those fertile days. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Blessy, and she's now going to talk about ovulation tracking.
Thank you, Nurse Kacie. So yes, so thank you so much for the deep insight of the app features. Many of the users might not even be knowing that there are these many features in Premom, letting them know how is their body working, how is their fertility health, and they're getting educated by the app just by logging their symptoms also. So yes, thank you. So today, let us speak about how to track ovulation. So even as a doctor in my practice, I keep seeing a lot of patients, even after writing a very clear prescription and handing them over to them, and even after getting medicines also, they keep again coming and asking a question of some little deeper questions like how much time after the food I have to take the medication, how much time prior I need to take the medication before having the food and all. So in the same way, there are some points to be noted when we are tracking our ovulation and taking the LH kits. So first, let us speak about how to track ovulation. And firstly, let us speak about the ovulation testing, the LH testings we are going into. So first thing is you need to track on the first day of the when your period ends. So which means you have started your periods on day 1 and you were bleeding for approximately 3 to 7 days, and the next day, even after you don't see a little spotting, that is the day when you need to start taking your LH test. So in the initial cycles, if you're very new to Premom and you want to know and have your accurate reading of your ovulation, I would recommend you to test the LH strips twice a day for the first cycle, which will really let you know how is your LH levels in your body, how is your hormone levels in your body, and even gives the app to track accurately and let you know. So first you can test, and if at all you're okay with everything is going fine, then I would recommend you to test twice only when you're reaching in your fertile window, which is when you open your chart status, you will see this purple color of the days of your menstrual cycle. So of your period cycle, in the cycle length, wherever you see the purple length, that is predicted based on your cycle length. So wherever you see the purple area, I would recommend you to test twice. The LH testings, I would recommend you to test it twice a day, and I would want you to test it between morning 10 a.m. to evening 8 p.m. In between of these timings only. I would recommend you not to test in with your early morning urine test. And second thing is, some patients are, as an Ask an Expert, I see questions where they get different readings in the same day. So first thing is, I would want you to test with the second morning urine or any time of the day between 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And second thing is, I would want you to reduce the fluid intake 2 hours before testing, which would give an accurate test result or test value, which we are going to see. And third point is, dip the LH test strip in the urine for 5 seconds, and or till you see the dye rising up to the strip, and let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes before taking the picture and uploading it in the app. So there is a in-app camera to capture the photo of the test strip. So first, what you need to do, just collect your urine, take the strip, dip it in the urine for 5 seconds, 5 to 7 seconds, or till you see the dye rise up to the strip, and wait for 5 to 10 minutes before reading and before taking the photo. And this, after taking the picture of the LH strip, you will see a ovulation testing column where you can see all the testing readings of your testing strips. So 0 point more than 0.8 or above reading is your LH test. Like it is your peak. Sometimes we get questions like, I don't see a peak, it still shows high and all. So the app automatically reads and sets its based on your app LH strip readings, it automatically sets the peak. So I would recommend you need to keep an eye on more than 0.8 and above readings, which means that you are near to your ovulation. And then you need to have the most and foremost important thing is you need to have sex before 5 days of your LH peak, reaching to your LH peak, and on the next day of the LH peak, which is ovulation. So whenever you see the LH peak in the chart, which means that in the approximately in next 24 hours, the egg which is in the ovary is about to release. So this is the crucial time you should have your sex for high chances of pregnancy. Yes. So next, let us talk about how to take a BBT, basal body temperature, in the next slide. So yes, how to take a basal body temperature tracking. So first, let us speak, why is basal body temperature important? So whenever firstly for to track ovulation, we are doing the LH strips, which is telling us when is the LH peak, whenever we are reaching the LH test on the top, and we are predicting that in next 24 hours there will be ovulation. So why do we need to take a basal body temperature? So basal body temperature is a very important tool which will let us know that ovulation has truly occurred in our body. And how is this happening? So after the ovulation, after 2 to 3 days, we will see a temperature raise in our body of 0.5 to 1 degrees, which is due to the release of a hormone called progesterone from the ovary. After the egg release, the ovary will be releasing a hormone called progesterone, which will show up as a body sign telling us that our body temperature will be raising due to the release of this hormone, which will tell us that ovulation has truly occurred. So this is very important tool for us to get the confirmation that ovulation has occurred. So I would tell you to reach the green cycle, the basal body temperature plays a very important role. So first, let us know how to take a basal body temperature. So whenever you need, the first thing is you need to keep your thermometer just beside your bed. As soon as you wake up, do not speak before speaking, before drinking water, before waking up from your sleeping position. You need to take your basal body temperature. So I see a question popping up like, which is the best place to take a basal body temperature? So the best place to take a basal body temperature is in your oral cavity itself, under the tongue, where we take a normal temperature. So, and when you need to minimally have 3 to 6 hours of consequent sleep, uninterrupted sleep, for accurate basal body temperature to be noted and for accurate reading. So the last thing is I would recommend you to take it on same time. So there, as in we get a lot of questions and ask an expert asking that I was unable to wake up on the normal timing of my day today. So is it okay or no? So, but still, whenever you wake up, just try to keep an hour or 2 hours from the basic timing, but still do not skip taking basal body temperature, even if it is not the same time. So I would recommend you to take it every day on the same time. If at all you're not unable to do that, I would tell you still with a consequent sleep of more than 3 to 4 hours, you need to take the basal body temperature. And I would recommend you to use the easy @home of the Premom basal body temperature, because the first thing is the normal temperatures which we use in our home for the fever or whatever the health conditions we get, that temperature will be only the first unit part of it. But this basal body temperature, for an accurate result, we need the 100th part of the degrees of the Celsius centigrade of a body temperature is recorded by the basal body temperature. And this would be the Smart Easy Home basal body temperature has an inbuilt Bluetooth, which is directly connected to the Premom app in our phone. As Nurse Kacie have told, sometimes we don't even, as soon as we wake up from the sleep, we don't even remember the temperature which we have recorded as soon as we wake up, as we are still in sleep, or we have a tired day or a very deep sleep night and all. So this temperature automatically taking and giving it to the app would be a very accurate tool for us, because basal body temperature is the one which confirms the ovulation. So as we are less on time and there are many questions to take up, so yes, so this is it for the how to track the basal body temperature and the ovulation. So the main thing is, do not worry even if you don't see a basic chart of how it shows, how everybody charts look and all. So keep consequently checking it. And I would tell you that every chart is different, every person's body is different, the readings are different, the temperature readings are different, but still consequently keep taking it. If at all you still have any doubts about your chart readings, or you're unable to read your chart, or your chart doesn't look like somebody's of a perfect chart, that is okay. So do not panic. You can speak to the experts in the Premom app. You can directly question us. We can see whole of your data of your chart readings. So small to small doubt, you can just text us. We are just text away from you. So whenever you have doubt, just do not panic. It is a natural cycle. It takes time for you to understand it. But if at all, the main thing we need is you need to see a peak and you need to see a BBT spike, which confirms the ovulation. Yes. So let us jump into the next slide. So this is the example of a chart of a green cycle users. Nurse Kacie has detailedly explained you what a green cycle user is, what are the things, the ovulation testing and the basal body temperature, who are checking them very on time, and whoever is identifying their true LH peak and also the BBT spike after the LH 2 to 3 days after the ovulation has occurred. So, and having sex on time exactly after the peak you're seeing. So logging your sex and all these features will give you an approximately 287% of success rate, which is a very high rate. So this is the little things you need to do. So this chart is example of a green cycle user. So they have started checking their LH and BBT both together after the end of their periods, which is the red area where we see in the chart. So on the cycle day 5th, they have started checking their LH, where it was consequently low on their 6th day, 7th day, 8th day, and also the 9th day. It have just started to raise. And on the 10th day of the cycle day, it has risen to a level of 0.7, in between 0.7. And it on the cycle day 11th, it has clearly seen a rise of above nearly 1.1, which is, and yes, that is LHP. And then we have seen, yes, there are, when you see an LHP in your app, you still need to test for a day or two, because we need to see the fall of your luteinizing hormone, the fall of your LH, which is the confirmation of a true LH peak. So you need to even test 2 to 3 days after even though you see an LHP. So then in this cycle, blue line, which is the basal body temperature line, where they have been recording their basal body temperature from the day of their menstruation itself, and which was consequently low till the day of the LH peak, and it has been slowly rising on the day of cycle day 15. We see a basal body spike. So sometimes there are users, they don't see a cover line because of the app will be predicting and it will be showing you the cycle status based on with 6 low consecutive temperatures and 3 consecutive high temperatures, which is a green cycle and which is a very clear reading of the basal body temperature. Even though if you don't see this and you see a spike without a cover line, do not worry, that is a basal body temperature for you. So, and they in this cycle, they have clearly logged their sex whenever on the day of how they have had sex, and every day they have, see, logging your sex in the app will clearly give a very deep insight of when you had sex and when you need to be having them for a green cycle for to increase the chances of pregnancy. After the LH peak, only sex in this time. So logging your sex will really give a very insight for us to know, are you to the green cycle or no? Yes. So over to this is it for the green cycle user. This is an example of it.
Uh-oh, I think we may have lost maybe connection with her. Can you guys hear me? Can someone let me know in the chat if you can hear me? Yes, okay, perfect. So maybe it was just Dr. Blessy, her connection. We may have lost her. Oh, I think she might be back. So basically, just to summarize what she was saying real quickly, this line across the chart, this is a cover line. So what she was explaining is that in order for you to have a cover line on the Premom chart, you have to have 3 temperatures after ovulation be higher than the 6 temperatures before ovulation. So you need to have at least 6 temperatures before ovulation in order for you to have this cover line. The cover line doesn't mean that you're going to get a green cycle or not get a green cycle. The cover line is just for you to visually see all of your temperatures post ovulation should be above that cover line, showing you that they're all elevated and higher than the pre-ovulatory ones. So it's really just a nice visual for you to tell the difference between your pre and post ovulatory temps. Okay, so just a couple of additional resources before we hop into our Q&A. You have the Premom membership, which you can sign up for, that has all of these extra and awesome things, such as these weekly webinars. We have Ask an Expert, and then as mentioned already a couple of times, we have our community that you can chat back and forth with people in there as well. All right, so we have a couple of questions. Let me jump over to those. I know that we've reached our hour mark, so if you guys have to go, I'm so sorry that we have gone over an hour. I do have a survey that I would love for you guys to fill out for us. So I'm going to put it in the chat box. I'm doing it now just in case you guys have to go, but there's the survey if you want to answer that for us. But okay, so some questions. I tested HCG a few days and it's still negative. I'm 11 DPO. Do you think it's still too early? Yes, it can be too early. You may not get a positive pregnancy test until 12 to 14 days post-ovulation. Personal story, when I found out that I was pregnant, I didn't get a positive pregnancy test until 13 DPO. So 13 days after ovulation, and it was so light. Like it was barely any line. 10 days after ovulation, it was negative. 11, it was negative. 12, it was negative. 13, it was positive, and it was barely positive. So 11 may be too early for you. Now, is it possible to get a positive test in 11 DPO? Absolutely, it's possible, but that doesn't mean that you're out if you don't have one by 11 DPO. It is still possible that you could be pregnant even if you have a negative at 11 DPO. What time of the day is the best to test 3 times? You mean for Ovulation. So if you're going to be testing 3 times a day, you could do one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening. That's going to be the best time. Do you need to test 3 times a day? No, I would say at most in your fertile window, you can be testing twice a day. 3 times is totally up to you. I think that's probably a little much. But if you want to test 3 times a day, no one's going to stop you. You can obviously test the more, however much that you want. I went through a C-section scar ectopic pregnancy in April. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And had surgery in May. Still devastated for my loss. I'm now extremely anxious about getting pregnant again and having another ectopic. Do you have any advice on this? It's your filler. I'm 40 times against me. Okay, so first of all, I'm so sorry that you went through that. That's a C-section scar ectopic. I mean, those are just so rare, and for that to happen to you, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. When it comes to your fertility, does it affect your fertility? No. I mean, having an ectopic pregnancy doesn't normally affect your fertility unless it's in the fallopian tube and they had to remove the fallopian tube. Then obviously, not having fallopian tube, you have to have that in order to get pregnant. So that could affect your fertility if it was in the fallopian tube, but having a C-section scar ectopic, I'm not so sure that really affects your fertility. When it comes to are you ready to get pregnant again? Make sure that you are approved by your doctor to start trying again, and that everything, that you're fully healed from surgery, so that you have surgery in May, and that you are, of course, able to conceive again. Best of luck to you. I hope that you're able to conceive quickly. Ask your doctor to get in maybe early this time, like 6.5 to 7 weeks. I'm not sure what time when you had your first ultrasound, but maybe see if they'd take you a little earlier to see if you can have that ultrasound a little bit sooner, just to make sure it's not an ectopic pregnancy. That'll just help you, put your mind at ease. I have PCOS, so I usually test 2 to 3 times a day. Absolutely fine. If you have PCOS, you are more than welcome to test twice a day. We definitely, like I just mentioned, always say during the fertile window, go ahead and test twice a day. But if you have PCOS, you also can be testing twice a day. Also, if you haven't used the Premom testing strips, I would recommend that you use those if you have PCOS. Those may be helpful for you in really determining when those LH levels are rising. How to check your cervical mucus. This is another great question. Honestly, when you go to the bathroom, you can look in your underwear, look in the toilet paper. A lot of times you may even be able to feel the cervical mucus if you're having a lot and it's liquidy and it's like that watery, stretchy, clear, lubricative feeling. You can feel it. You can touch it with your fingers. You can see if it's stretchy in your fingers. But honestly, you want to be looking at cervical mucus in that fertile period, because your cervical mucus is going to become watery and stretchy and clear right before you ovulate. Can I have sex on peak day and the next day and still get pregnant? Yes, you can. That's exactly what we want. We want you to have sex on peak day, and the next day is ovulation day. So that's the best time to be having sex in order to get pregnant. So that's exactly what you want to be doing. Great job. Dr. Blessy, I wasn't sure if you just want me to, I can answer the rest of these 3, or did you want to jump in at all? It's totally up to you.
So there's a question asking on period, the on period now on second day. After period is over, when should I be having sex? I know that was mentioned, I was struggling understanding. So yes, I'm so sorry you were struggling understanding it. So if you're on your day 2 of your period, I would recommend the best time to have sex is your fertile window. So if your cycle length is 28 days to 35, approximately your fertile window would be around 11th day to days 15th or 16th based on your cycle length. But I would still recommend you to take your LH testings and DBT, which would really give you a very clear insight of when to have sex. So whenever you see, whenever you're reaching towards your LH peak, which whenever it is showing high on your app of your LH reading, so that is the time you should start having sex. That is the 5 days prior your LH peak. On the day of your peak, on the next day, which is the day of ovulation, this is the perfect timing. You need to have sex. So yes, I hope this have answered your question. And There's one more question where with other trackers it says to use first morning urine. What is the reason you recommend second morning urine? Also, how do you make sure to get enough water during the day but have accurate results? So yes, so the first early morning urine is not recommended for doing an LH testing because that would really give not an accurate rate of your luteinizing hormone which is released by your body. So sometimes this might the concentrations might be high, which would not give you accurate result or the correct readings of it. So the taking the second morning urine or any time of the day urine would be recommended for you to get it tracked for a correct result. And how do you make sure to get enough water during the day but have accurate results? So mostly you would be doing the LH testing on the same time or approximately same time of the day. So if you reduce the fluid intake in your body, which will really show an impact on the concentration of of the hormone in your urine level. That is the reason we recommend you to reduce the intake of the water before taking the testing kit, approximately 1.5 to 2 hours before taking the test. Yes. Yes, now, Casey, you can still take any questions open.
Yeah, of course. So why do I have a temperature spike after ovulation? Let's say day 20, 21, or 22. So this is what we were just talking about with BBT. When you're tracking that basal body temperature after ovulation, that temperature, we're looking for it to spike. So that's what she's saying. Why is my temperature spiking? That's confirming ovulation. So as progesterone increases in the second half of the cycle in the luteal phase, that increase in progesterone naturally increases our resting temperature. It's really cool what the body can do. I mean, I think it's so amazing that our body just like our temperature naturally goes up with the increase in progesterone, which can tell us that we've ovulated. Like, how cool is that? I just think it's so awesome that we can use that as a tool to help confirm ovulation. So if you're ovulating around cycle day 18 or 19, your temperature is going up around day 20, 21, that's just confirming that ovulation has taken place. So that's a really, that's a really good thing to see. We're definitely looking for that rise in temperature. All right, so before we take our last question, I just want to remind you guys, I threw out a poll just asking you about how you feel about today's webinar in regards to like, do you feel confident with the information that we gave you? And then I also put a link to that survey in the chat box. If you guys have a few minutes afterwards to take that survey for us, that would be just super helpful. All right, so last question, are there any vitamins or natural supplements we should take to boost fertility? So when it comes to boosting fertility, my number one recommendation that I could give you is, of course, take a prenatal vitamin, but I want you to try boosting your fertility through your diet, through your nutrition, through your exercise, through what you're doing on your day-to-day life, because that is where you can get so many amazing nutrients and your whole foods. So we're talking vegetables, fruits, grass-fed meats, we're talking whole foods, all right? So I don't want processed foods, processed, prepackaged meats like hot dogs, prepackaged snacks, anything that you find on the shelves in the grocery store. I want you to really focus on getting your nutrients through whole foods. Raw vegetables, raw fruits. You can cook them, of course, too, but this is where you're going to get those high nutrients. You can also talk to your doctor about checking your vitamin D levels. Vitamin D is super important for trying to get pregnant. If you're low on vitamin D, you can supplement with vitamin D to help fertility. You can also talk to your doctor about CoQ10. CoQ10 is just another supplement to really help boost fertility and those antioxidants. So antioxidants are really great for your ovarian health as well as sperm health. Antioxidants can be found in berries, leafy vegetables. We're talking blackberries, blueberries, strawberries. Again, you can get all of these antioxidants and things from your diet instead of supplementing, but you can also add in these extra things like CoQ10 Vitamin C, omega-3s, that fish oil is really, really good for ovarian health. But check your prenatal vitamin, make sure your prenatal vitamin doesn't already have these excess things in it, because you don't want to double down on your supplements. You don't want to take vitamin C if your prenatal has a lot of vitamin C in it. Same with vitamin D. My prenatal vitamin D has like 4,000 international units of vitamin D. I don't need to take extra vitamin D because my prenatal has enough. So check your prenatal vitamins. If you have enough of something already, you don't need to be supplementing with extra stuff. You only need to supplement if you're not getting enough. How do you know if you're getting enough? Well, you have to have your levels checked. If your vitamin D is low, then maybe you need to be taking more. You don't want to overdo it on vitamin D though, right? So these are just questions and things that you definitely want to be talking to your healthcare provider about, just to make sure that you're not taking too much. All right, and I think that's it, guys. I think that was all of our questions. I see something in the chat box here. Is it common not to have symptoms in the 2-week wait? Yes, not everybody's going to have symptoms. I know I keep telling you my own personal story, but I didn't have symptoms in the 2-week wait. I didn't have symptoms until I was like 6 or 7 weeks pregnant. So you may not even know you're pregnant when you go to take a pregnancy test. Some people don't have cramping, they don't have spotting, they don't have the fatigue or the breast tenderness. Whereas some people may have breast tenderness, some people may experience implantation spotting or implantation cramping. But again, not everybody's going to experience those things. So even if you feel absolutely normal and you have had 0 symptoms of pregnancy, you could still be pregnant. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you for joining us. We're so happy to have you for our special topic webinar. Don't forget to register for our next webinar coming up. We have one on Friday, I believe, with Nurse Heather. And then I'm doing another one, I believe, on Monday. I think either that or it's Nurse Heather. One of us. We're doing chart webinars and all these fun special topics. So if you guys are interested, make sure that you register for those, and we will see you then. Have a wonderful week.